confirmation by the Kremlin. RT's Medina Kochnova joins me to help shed some light on this. Medina, just first of all, where did the story come from?
Well, it all started by a comment that was made by the Russian President Vladimir Putin on Friday. Now, the president was talking about fighting ISIS in Syria and was asked to comment on some news reports that Russia is sending its military jets into Syria. And here's what the president said.
US jets are carrying out some airstrikes. So far, their efficiency has not been very high, and it's premature to say that we're ready to do the same. But we're already providing Syria with quite serious support, with vehicles, soldiers' training, weapons. We have big contracts with Syria that were signed 5 to 7 years ago, and we're meeting our obligations in full.
So it's not exactly clear what the Western headlines sensationalism is based upon, as we just heard from the Russian president. Now, the scope, as he said, that the scope of military cooperation with Syria was defined by the contracts that were actually signed several years ago. And in fact, Russia never made secret of the fact that it was sending defensive weapons to Syria, but as part of those contracts. Now, it is also important to note here that Vladimir Putin was speaking about Russia's military aid in context of fighting ISIS, as the Syrian government has been fighting Islamic State since it emerged on its territory. Well, still, these latest Western headlines did not go unnoticed by U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry, who called his Russian counterpart on Saturday to voice his concerns if those headlines were indeed accurate.
Yeah, those are the latest headlines, but Medina, it's not the first time that Russia's come into the media spotlight in connection with Syria, is it?
No, it is, exactly. And news outlets with stories of Russia's supposed military involvement or military movement in Syria is actually nothing new. Now, just recently, an English language Israeli news outlet did publish an article that was titled "Russian Jets in Syrian Skies." Now, that particular article was about Russia and that the country has begun its military intervention in Syria. Now, the only source that was quoted in the article, and that the article was based upon, were some anonymous Western diplomats, and no other details were mentioned. Not even a direct quote was used in the article itself. So RT decided to reach out to that particular news outlet, and especially to the author of that article, to shed some light on the story and on the source. However, the author refused to give any details to talk about his source or give any details on his legitimacy. Now, of course, RT also spoke to a source at Russia's Defense Ministry, and that source told us that there was actually no deployment of Russian fighter jets into Syria. So there you go, another example.